Tonight on Joy News Prime, protesters blocked from entering Parliament resort to sleeping mats and pillow in hand in front of Parliament's main entrance after a day of drama with the police and the majority leadership over controversial e-levy.
Listen to me. So you need to listen to me. So if it is the case, no, please. If it's the case that you will not recognize us, there's no problem. But we are here.
We didn't say come to us. We said go back. We are coming to you. We are coming to you.
Are you saying we should go? No, we want to talk to you and take the petition. But if you are saying no, that's fine.
We have details as protesters face off with police and refuse to hand over their petition to the leadership of the majority unless they are allowed onto the premises. And if you don't want to pay the e-levy, don't use Momo. That is according to a former Deputy Trade and Industry Minister, Carlos Ahenkra.
It is not a compulsory tax. If you don't do Momo, you don't pay. So if you don't want to pay, don't do Momo. It's simple.
Also in this bulletin, a father loses 7-month-old daughter because of no bed syndrome.
Confuanochi says there's no bed to accommodate my daughter.
An 88-year-old ex-military officer shoots 2 children and their father at Breman in the Swami municipality of the Ashanti region over a rent dispute.
Left ear of Collins Kusi is completely covered in band-aid. Wounds he claims to have sustained from gunshots are visible on his chest. The distraught father explains how the family was attacked.
We're live from our studios in Kukumlimle on your digital terrestrial TV because we're free to air on DSTV channel 421 and Go TV channel 144. We are your home of independent, fearless and credible journalism. Please stay tuned for details. My name is Aisha Ibrahim. Many thanks for choosing us tonight. They responded by laying their mats on the floor with comfortable pillows in hand as they rested in front of Parliament's main entrance. This was after they were blocked from entering the precincts of the House. Scores of members and sympathizers of the Justice for Ghana pressure group have been on the street today protesting against the controversial 1.75% e-levy. They had planned to occupy Parliament until MPs reject the levy, but the police showed up in full force, denying them access to the premises. Manuel Kranting was with them on the protest and now reports.
You want to present the petition on our behalf?
Our leader will they are representative. Our leader will stand down as the police.
Verbal exchanges and heated arguments at the frontage of Parliament as aggrieved protesters from pressure group Justice for Ghana attempted to occupy the precincts of the Legislative House in demand of the outright rejection of the controversial e-levy. This argument continued for several minutes.
We're in a meeting and we're informed that you are here. I mean, we need to grant you the necessary courtesy by coming up to see you. And I know a number of you, my colleague here, the Honorable Brenner. No, listen to me. Would you listen to me? Listen. Now listen to me. So you need to listen to me. So if it is the case, no, please. If it's the case that you will not recognize us, there's no problem. But we are here.
We didn't say come to us. We said go back. We are coming to you. We are coming to you.
Are you saying we should go? No, we want to talk to you and take the petition. But if you are saying no, that's fine.
Earlier, the police had served the conveners of the group with a court order restraining them from proceeding to occupy Parliament, insisting they will enforce the order. Advanced team of the Ghana Police Service from the formed police unit has been deployed to the forecourt of Parliament. DCOP Idi Seidu says they are bent on enforcing the restraining order secured from court.
With them, I mean, that is also part of our modus to make sure that we are well protected. The most important thing is that Parliament is ready to receive their petition.
They said they will still occupy Parliament. The confirmation that you arrest them if they do.
The police is also ready to police them out to the presence of Parliament to present their petition. And that's it. After that, then they disperse.
If they don't?
Well, there's an order. You all know if you breach a court order, what happens next?
You are going to arrest all of them?
I said there's an order.
Marching through the principal streets of Accra, carrying their mats and pillows, the protesters promised to flout this warning.
I'm going to sleep at Parliament House, as you are already aware. We notified the Ghana Police and the Parliament of Ghana that we are coming to picket in the forecourt of the State House. President Akufo-Addo thinks that because we have always acquiesced to the content of the budget, he can impose more sadistic tax on us. And so to that extent, we are having difficulty.
Well, nobody can disallow me not to sleep on my mat. I brought the mat in protest of what is happening in this country. We are really suffering in this country under Nanado. And that was not what they told us in opposition. Nanado, before the elections, told us he was coming to resist us drastically. So what are we seeing today? What has changed?
But after about an hour, 10 of the protesters were granted access to present their petition. Bernard Mona is convener of the group.
The president in the new 2022 budget must clearly show how it will plug revenue leakages, punish plundering of the public purse, and make corruption unattractive, not piling on new sand taxes on poor Ghanaians. We are resolved to resist anything short of this.
Thank you.
And entreat our representatives, that is you in Parliament, to unanimously resist. There is no room for majority and majority on.
Speaker.
The petition was received by the deputy whips from both the minority and majority sides in Parliament, who promised the commitment of the House to deal with the content of the petition. The protesters agreed and left the precincts of Parliament, threatening to return if their demands are not met. Manuel Cranting, Joy News, Accra.
If you don't want to pay e-levy, don't use Momo. That is according to former Deputy Trade and Industry Minister Carlos Ahinkra. He's asking the Justice for Ghana group to back down on their protest against the inclusion of the e-levy in the 2022 budget. In the view of the Tema West MP, the inclusion of the e-levy would cushion the government to facilitate its developmental projects. He argues that the protesters must seek a better appreciation of the implementation of the e-levy before protesting against it.
Going to pay a little bit of tax. I've made a certain generalization. Let me see if I can bring it out here. So when you're traveling from here to Kumasi, you go to Renyinem. On the railway line, the people selling grass cutters and all these bush meat. Even there are people, women selling snail in basket and so on. Let's say this woman selling snails sells them at 300 cedis per basket. In a month, they sell 10 cedis. How many of us enter it? I'm going to sit in our office here in Accra. But this woman doesn't pay any tax at all. Government is looking for a way for this woman to contribute something small to the kitty. At least she will send some momo to her hometown for them to pay someone for her. The guy who is selling grass cutter there will send something small to the hunter to buy bullets. Government will take 1.75% of that money. So it will give us the opportunity to make all these people pay a little bit of money. And finally, it is not a compulsory tax. If you don't do momo, you don't pay.
The opposition National Democratic Congress said it will use all means available to it to reject the introduction of e-levy and other measures they describe as killer in the 2022 budget. Speaking at a forum on the 2022 budget, which they call a Woodie budget, General Secretary of the party, Johnson Asiedun Ketia, said the NDC is not against taxation in principle, but they're against taxes that would deepen the burden of the ordinary Ghanaian.
Democracy is a system of representative government, but what makes it effective is accountability. You give your mandate to people to govern you, you give them power to tax you, but you reserve the power to also question them, hold them accountable for what use they are putting your power to, for what use they are putting your taxes to. So in any democracy where you abandon accountability, then that democracy ceases to be a proper democracy. And when you talk about accountability, largely you can say that MPP is in government. So they cannot hold themselves accountable unless somebody holds them. So we are at this first stage where we believe that the foundation of the budget is wrong. And we are prepared to deploy all the power you have given us. And that power is 137 MPs. We cannot have a bigger vote than that.
Let's get back onto the phone line and speak with Bernard Mona, who is convener for the Justice for Ghana group. He's also a former chairman of the People's National Convention. Bernard Mona, I'm grateful for your time. What next for your group?
Well, we have given ourselves up to Tuesday of next week. It is our expectation that Parliament will respond to our petition, and then we'll see the way forward. Feeling that we will remobilize ourselves and stage our protest and occupation of Parliament. This time, we were advised by Council that we didn't have to do anything contrary to the court order, in spite of the fact that the court order, in our view, was procured under dubious circumstances. We simply had to yield to that. And so up to Tuesday of next week, if we don't hear from Parliament, we shall take the next step of regrouping and getting our way back into Parliament.
Let's go through the assurances that was given to you by the leadership that received your petition. Well,
the MP for Ayawaso West Wagon was the one who represented the majority group. And I think the MP, Ibrahim Ahmed of Fekwa, I hope I got it right, is the one who also represented the minority group. And what I can say is that they said they would reference the petition to the Speaker. The Speaker will table it for discussion, and after that it will be communicated to. So we are upbeat that they will listen to our plea that e-levy is a no-no for the people of Ghana, and that it has serious ramifications for young entrepreneurs. It will sap away their capital. It is a repetitive tax. And above all, it will deny poor people their chance of economic salvation and lead them into economic suffocation. We have concluded that e-levy is an economic slavery, and we do not want to go through any further slavery in this country.
But before that response, though, there's a response for you. Former Deputy Trade Minister Carlos Ahenkwa says, if you don't want to pay e-levy, don't use Momo. That's quite simple, isn't it?
Well, that's just to show you the level of arrogance and, above all, the narrow-mindedness of those who are in authority in this country. Momo has come to fill in a void that the formal banking sector has been unable to fill. Momo has been able to reduce cash circulation in the system, and to a greater extent, it has also reduced crime rate, because these days, if you attack people, you don't find money, and therefore you are not able to in fact, it reduces crime rate. Momo has also ensured that rural folks who hitherto had to wait for months or years for their relatives outside or in urban areas to remit them are able to remit them, and it has facilitated healthcare delivery because people now can pay for many other things. You are saying that if we don't do that, in an era when the government of the day is promoting electronic transactions and is promoting a cashless society, it can only take the ignorance of the most for one to come and say that if you don't want to pay the tax, go and do no Momo. What we expect from our government officials is not to belch. But if you are belching, it means that you're belly full. But you see, all this that we are saying, it means that the government itself doesn't believe in its own program of digitization and inspiring people to an electronic cash system. Otherwise, why would anybody... Look, that MP who spoke, he is a businessman. Where in the world do we tax capital on business? You tax gains or returns on capital. Momo or e-levy is a confrontation on capital. It saps away capital. I hope you understand. That is the point we are raising. So why would you take somebody's capital and store away from the person? Do we tax capital? That means that you want to collapse the person's business. You don't want the person to either start a business as well.
So you intend to go back on Tuesday if you don't hear anything from leadership of Parliament?
Absolutely.
Right, I'm grateful.
This is not something that will end today if they don't want us to end it.
I'm grateful for your time. Bernard Mona is convener for the Justice for Ghana group. But at the NDC forum today, one of the keynote speakers at the forum, Deputy Ranking Member on Parliament's Finance Committee, Isaac Adongo, described the measures in the budget as austere and wondered why such measures will be introduced as the COVID-19 pandemic rages on.
2021, the government anticipates that by the close of the year, which is a couple of weeks away, it would have generated 55 billion. That will mean that even in the midst of COVID and all the challenges we had that we needed to be supported to come out of it, they still bulldoze their way, put their hands in our pocket, and 224 billion more. So if you are hungry and you are looking for food, now share abuaya for or no so crowd just okunu. The people struggled and your economy was only 0.4. Who introduces austerity in the midst of a devastating economic crisis? You don't do that. You rather support them to come out. But these people still took 24 billion more from us. In 2022, they expect to grow the revenue to 80 billion. That means an additional 45 billion in 1 year. I cannot imagine this group of people. If you put the two together, that is 2021 after COVID and 2022 after COVID, you are getting in excess of, you are getting almost 69 to 70 billion. Look at the figures they were generating in 2019 before COVID. They were generating only 42 billion. In fact, they are trying to double the revenue in 1 year after COVID. So quite clearly, you can see that this is a very insensitive government.
Isaac Adongo also claimed that COVID-19 has masked the poor management of the economy by the NPP government.
Ladies and gentlemen, e-levy, I don't want to talk about it because you can see all the descriptions, drop e-levy. You can see bank transfer. How can you tax bank transfer? How on earth can you tax bank transfer? What, Eosika? Is bank transfer revenue or it is profit? How can you be taxing people's capital? Cut reckless expenditure, and I've explained elaborately how the expenditures have been bloated, and they just don't make sense at all. Restore benchmark values, and here I want to speak to our importers. You know, I have the advantage of serving on the Trade, Industry, and Tourism Committee. And we had petitions upon petitions about the benchmark value. Here again, that is the scum and the scam of these people. You recall when they came with the other one, moving from taxation to production. Now it is production to taxation. There was so kind people were jubilating because they had removed import duty 1%. You remember that? Good. Asempa budget. Good. You know what they did? After they removed the 1%, they now went to the port and decided to give every item that you import their own value. We call it the commissioner's value. And commissioner's values are exceptional values. You call on the commissioner's valuation when there's an invoice that is under invoice and you feel that this is not a true reflection of the cost of that item. Then the commissioner uses his mandate to give a valuation. We call it a commissioner's valuation. These people went there and gave every item the commissioner's valuation. And increase is said that when the Boso Okai people go to pay the 2%, when they look at the figures, the 2% becomes almost 5%. What type of 2% is that? So if you were paying 3% on 100 Ghana, they increase it to 200 Ghana.
The Bolga Central MP alleged that the budget was written to line the pockets of the managers of the economy.
Over power to a group of people who have chosen not to manage the economy for 5 years. A group of people who have specialized in using PR and managing narrative in order to enforce a certain belief system on us, even if they do not exist. A group of people who have been concentrated on always making us believe that the economy is rosy, even when we get home and we can't find a meal, they still tell us the economy is the best. So 5 years of non-management of the economy and the management of narrative that they want the people of Ghana to believe has led us to a point where we have no return and we must begin to confront the issues as we find them. I've always said that these people were very, very lucky because they are the very good friends of COVID-19. COVID-19 actually rescued these people better than it damaged Ghanaians.
A father is broken over the death of his 7-month-old daughter. Francis Opoku Jemfi blames the daughter's death on what he says is failure to respond to a health emergency. Little Efia Sika Opoku Jemfi had breathing problems and was referred to the Komfanochi Teaching Hospital from the Asokwa Children's Hospital. The father says his daughter could have survived if the referral system was efficient. Emmanuel Bright Kweko has more in the following report.
Francis Opoku says his daughter gasped heavily for breath every 30 seconds, even under oxygen at the Asokwa Children's Hospital. Her condition needed referral to the Komfanochi Teaching Hospital.
I was in charge, and the way she was breathing and she would be shouting, ah, at least every 30 seconds. Whoa. But when I went there, and I asked about the man in charge, the doctor or the PA also. So, what are they doing? They say they have called the ambulance service. They have called the ambulance to come and take her to Komfanochi. There was a nurse around, a lady and a guy. So I asked them. So I was even angry. And the guy said, oh, don't be too judgmental. Please calm down. Komfanochi says there's no bed to accommodate my daughter.
Public Affairs Director at the Komfanochi Teaching Hospital, Kwame Frimpong, however, says an initial enquiry at the hospital's call log showed no evidence of a call placed from the Asokwa Children's Hospital. He has, however, indicated the quality control unit of the hospital is probing the matter.
We've checked our records, we've checked the pediatric emergency unit, we've checked our main telephone exchange, and there was no call from that hospital. So our quality assurance unit has been asked to do further investigations, because usually, whenever somebody calls us, any of the emergency units, there's a documentation procedure that is followed.
Mr. Frimpong also raised concerns with the lack of space at the Komfanochi Teaching Hospital.
And until we get complementary facilities like Kolebu has gotten in Accra, where there's UGMC, there's RAGE, there's 37, there is a police hospital, there's Tema General Hospital, and other quasi-government hospitals, until we are reached that point, where we have complementary facilities to take some of the pressure off Komfanochi Teaching Hospital, there will be times that we will have exhausted our capacity and we will not be in the position to admit additional patients. So it's not just a question of no beds. It's a question of absence of bed space.
From Kumasi, Emmanuel Bright-Quick reporting.
An 88-year-old ex-military officer has shot 2 children and their father at Breman in the Swami municipality of the Ashanti region over a rent dispute. The children, aged 6 and 8 years, are receiving treatment at the Komfanoche Teaching Hospital. The father, Collins Kusi, says he was a target for the shooting, but the children were hit in the process. Anaya Ojima has more.
The left ear of Collins Kusi is completely covered in band-aid. Wounds he claims to have sustained from gunshots are visible on his chest. The distraught father explains how the family was attacked.
10 minutes. I'm telling you, bibi di gwang. Timpe ba na say papa na me no fio no. Won de japu na chira, o jam pumachi a wode danger mienu. Abo epuma na chi.
I heard a knock on my door. I came out to find the old man tie a red cloth around my windows. I asked him why. In a loud voice, he asked me whether he hadn't issued death threats at me before. He had a hammer in his hand which I didn't see. He then hit me with the hammer. I quickly struggled with him for the hammer. After taking the hammer from him, he went into his room and brought out a single barrel gun. He shot in my direction twice, but it missed me. I later struggled with him for the gun. Later, I heard people calling my attention to the children who were down bleeding at the point.
The threats were issued in 2019 after the demise of his landlord. Mr. Kusi says the suspect had demanded rent allowance from him despite being directed to pay the money to another relative.
The man who used to be the landlord told me to deal with one niece called Angela. So after 2019, when I paid my rent to Angela, this man has been disturbing me since.
The 2 children are responding to treatment at the Komfanoche Teaching Hospital. The suspect also sustained injuries after struggling with the father of the victims. Superintendent Emmanuel Esiama is District Police Commander at Swami.
The suspect was also arrested immediately after the event. He also notified police that he was suffering from his wrists and limbs because the victim used some implement to hit him. So as we speak, because of the injury that he also sustained, he has been hospitalized under police guard to receive medical treatment. We are praying that after the medical treatment, suspect will arraigned before court.
For Joy News, Nanaya Ojima, Kumasi.
Business, the Public Interest and Accountability Committee has expressed satisfaction over the ongoing road projects funded by the oil revenue in the Greater Accra region. The committee is presently inspecting some projects, including the Flower Pot Motorway flyover at Spintex. Now, the move is to ensure that funds from the annual budget funding amount drawn from the state, the sale of crude oil by the country, is judiciously used for its intended purpose. We have more in this report. It emerged that the Finance Ministry disbursed some 3.6 million cedis into the construction of the flyover from the APFA account in 2019. The Vice Chairman of the committee, Nasir, expressed worry that an insignificant amount has been allocated from the oil resources considering the cost of the entire project.
Now, our problem with that particular project is that it means that we can't really point to a significant impact of the oil money on that project. And when we are mentioning projects that oil money should go into, it is too insignificant for us to say that oil money has gone into this. Even though we will see the quantum as 3-point-something million, in terms of the total project cost, that is too insignificant, almost negligible.
Would you suggest that they add more to it?
Now, what we are saying, and PIAC has always advocated, is that we commit significant amount of oil money into legacy projects. So if we consider the flyover as an important project and a priority to us, let us commit as much oil money as possible to it so that significantly we can point to it as an oil project, right?
The team also inspected the 1.5 kilometers Akura power line stretch in the Nkwantana Madina municipality, which was completed in 2018.
We need to work on our maintenance and ensure that where there are potholes, we act as fast as possible to ensure that the potholes don't develop into manholes. Forgive me for using the word manholes. But we do have some few potholes that we are hoping that the Assembly will take into consideration and ensure that whoever is doing maintenance here should ensure that all the potholes are done with. And that way we can actually say that there is value for the oil money that has been applied here. Interestingly, I also live just a few meters away from here. I never knew this was an oil-funded project, actually. But today I am being told that over 90% of the project cost that went into this particular road was actually coming from oil money. And to the extent that I'm a member of the committee, I think for this particular project, I'm extremely happy.
Officials from the Department of Urban Roads who took the team on the road inspection expressed satisfaction with the project. Ghana's total earnings from the non-traditional export fell marginally by 1.84%, from $2.89 billion in 2019 to $2.84 billion last year. Now, that's according to figures from the Ghana Export Promotion Authority, GEPA. The slight decline in earnings was as a result of the impact of COVID-19, which disrupted global value chain and supply chains as well. However, products from processed and semi-processed subsectors, including iron sheets, palm oil, and natural rubber sheets, recorded major increases in exports during the same period. Meanwhile, the Chief Executive of Ghana Export Promotion Authority, Dr. Efo Asare, insists that this will not affect Ghana's ambitious $25 billion export strategy by 2029.
It's quite ambitious. And when the team made up of about 100 organizations sat down to put this whole thing together, there was a lot of research before we came out with that figure, so it wasn't from anybody's imagination. But it was quite ambitious, and we thought that yes, we could do it. We are not. I don't think the ministry is going to review it downwards or review it upwards, because it was already an ambitious target anyway. We are going to work hard and keep on doing what we are doing and do the interventions. We know that we will recover, just as we did put measures in place to the extent that the dip wasn't so bad. We think that we will keep on working hard to increase. Now everybody is digitizing. So we are looking at different ways of doing things. We will not stick to the traditional way of doing things and miss out. There are even products that we haven't even touched that are doing so well on the market. And I'm talking about a product like cannabis, which is doing well. Other people have taken advantage of it and raking in millions of dollars. We are going to look at all of these products. We need to diversify, and we need to use technology to help us to achieve what we set out to achieve. So we are not going to, review it. I don't think so. I cannot speak for the ministry, but I can say that in my own little, we are not going to review it. And hopefully it won't be reviewed. We will try and catch up and close the gap somehow. Thank you. My deputy was just mentioning cassava. Cassava powder is now a big deal in the Asian markets and other markets. It is being used for pharmaceuticals. We haven't even looked at it properly in the past. Now it is something that we are doing. And so all these new products that we are seriously working on, we hope will support what we are doing to get to the target that we said we would.
And that'll be all for business. We have sports coming up. Do stay with us.
Hello, good evening, and welcome to the sports segment here on Joy News Prime with me, Ori Kwampofo. Our boxing referee, Judge Shadrach Akwa, believes Richard Comey would defeat Vasyl Lomachenko on December 11th if the Ghanaian boxer relies on his strength. The two boxers go head-to-head in New York this weekend, and we have more details for you in the following Joy Sports Report.
Former WBA and WBO lightweight champion Vasyl Lomachenko saw his career hit a major bump when he lost to Teofimo Lopez in October 2020. The 33-year-old Ukrainian bounced back by seeing off Masayoshi Nakatani over the summer, but will need to put on a show against Richard Comey if he is to set up another world title shot next year. Renowned Ghanaian referee Judge Shadrach Akwa expects a close contest.
Yeah, looking at the caliber of Lomachenko, I think, yes, if people should come to that conclusion, that is true. But nothing is too difficult for anybody on this earth. If he's trained well and he's conditioned himself with proper attention and everything, I think he can match him squarely.
Referee Shadrach Akwa has urged Richard Comey to rely on his strengths as he comes up against Vasyl Lomachenko in a 12-round lightweight contest set to take place on Saturday, December 11 at Madison Square Gardens in New York.
He shouldn't underrate Lomachenko, because as being a world champion before, he also been a world champion before. I think they are all in a class of their own. So he should concentrate and take the instructions from what the coaches will tell him to do. That would be the best thing for him to do.
What kind of outcome are you looking at the strength of the two boxers?
I have watched Lomachenko trained, and I've watched Comey also on the Facebook train. I think they are all of equals. So I think what he can do is probably to put up his best, because Lomachenko is not a small boxer. He's also not a small boxer. He has to do his best, and I think if he's able to do that, then the odds goes with him.
The winner of the Comey Lomachenko bout will become the #1 contender for the lightweight title in 2022.
Now, the Ghana Amputee football team has returned home to a tumultuous welcome. The team arrived at the Kotoka International Airport on Wednesday morning. Now, they were met on arrival by Director General of the National Sports Authority, Professor Peter Chumesi, and the President of the African Paralympic Committee, Samson Dean. The Black Challenge started the tournament on a promising note after a 3-0 victory over Egypt before mauling Nigeria to a 4-0 victory to book a semi-final berth. Ghana comfortably went past Angola and went on to beat West African neighbors Liberia 3-2 in the finals of the competition. Well, before we go, just an update coming in from Russia as Zenit scored a late equalizer to draw 3-3 with Chelsea. And what that result means is that Chelsea finished second behind Juventus, who beat Malmo by 1-0. In terms of permutations, it means that the Blues can now face either Ajax, Real Madrid, Bayern Munich, or one of Wolfsburg, Lille, Sevilla, or Salzburg in the Champions League round of 16 stage. My name is Ori Kwampofo, and I'll be back later with the second part of the sports segment.
And it's time now for showbiz. Beautiful Becky is here.
Hello to you,
She's
Aisha.
glowing,
All the time.
looking all colorful.
Thank you. We bless Jesus. Let's talk about legendary A.B. Quinsel.
Yeah.
You know, he's been in this music business for
quite some time
very long
now.
time, over 2 decades. He's still here. He performed over the weekend. I caught up with him and we had a conversation, a long one. And he's advising the youth, the younger ones who are in this music business as well, or who are yet to come into the music business, to take time and plan, because that's the only way out
they can
excel.
You don't always get A.B. Quinsel to talk to, and so I am very excited and I'm very pleased that you could make time for me. Hello to you, sir. How are you doing?
Not so bad. Not so bad.
You gave us a really fantastic performance, you know, out there. You're still strong at this age.
Do you like my performance?
I love it. I love the Moses story. I mean, why do you think people love the Moses story?
Anyway, it's something that I can't explain. Yeah, I can't explain. Next time I will explain fully.
Okay, but I mean, can you tell us a bit about, your journey through this music industry? A lot of people look up to you. Kofi Kinata, he looks up to you. What kept you going all this while?
Oh, well, you perform and you have to perform good for people to like you. You say, and your music have to be very reasonably, you understand, and enjoyable. That's it. That's why.
So we're getting towards the Christmas season. Apart from this show, do you have any other shows that you're playing?
Yeah, several shows. Yeah.
So a lot of
ahead of me.
Please bless us with your knowledge for the music industry, the young ones that are watching you. Bless us with some advice.
Well, what I want to say, or I want to tell the younger ones, is they have to be very careful. Very careful. And plan well before they move. Yes, so that's all I want to tell them.
He's so right.
Yes, so you plan, you excel in the music industry or whatever.
And that's the only way to go.
Yes. Let's talk about Black Sheriff because, well, the industry is excited for him. Everyone is excited because
the track has made over 60K views.
You've been listening.
I'm telling you.
Been listening.
It was just released a while ago.
Yeah, and Burna Boy says that he's taking him on tour, and so everybody should, make sure that they learn the lyrics, which I'm trying to learn because I want to go for that tour. But we spoke on Daybreak Hits this morning, and Dusty spoke to Black Sheriff about the collaboration, and here's what he has to say.
Collaboration come up.
I think it actually happened naturally. You get it, because Benna reached out when he heard about the song. Yeah, he reached out to us on WhatsApp, called me, like we talked on video, said he liked the song. Like if he comes around, like if he comes to Ghana, we actually work on the song. But he actually couldn't wait. You get it. But he was on tour. He was actually performing in New York. He recorded it before the performance. That very day he heard the song, you get it. And like he sent it back to us, we liked it, and we started processing on the song.
So Black Sheriff, now we played the song and reactions from people is more or less, well, Burna Boy couldn't do too much. Did you have that feeling? Same feeling?
It is art, but me personally, I like the verse so much. You get it. So, and I think maybe it's because of the sad boys in the house made them come out town. That's why my people vex like that. But then bear with me, bro. If we do this, you get it. Yeah. But me, I like this.
What did that mean? Sad boys in the house. What did that mean?
Now, that second verse is actually like a star verse for my people, for my fans, You get it? And it's not in the song. So they actually vex about that. But me, I know, boy, they understand them. And they understand everybody. But people actually like the verse too. Have you checked comments on it?
Oh, okay. Now I get it. Yeah. Oh, okay. Wow. Now I get it. So are we expecting a music video pretty soon?
Oh, yeah, for sure.
Yeah, that's excited Black Sheriff there. I'm excited for him.
I am excited.
You put out a song, and all the big ones are jumping on it.
Burna Boy is a big boy, and that will be it for showbiz. Back to Joy News Prime to the rest of our stories. Government's flagship One District, One Factory policy has so far created over 150,000 jobs across the country. That's according to the Deputy Minister for Trade and Industry, Michael Ochubefi. According to the New Job in South MP, the initiative has transformed lives and improved the economy at the local level. Speaking to Joy News, he observed that about 130 factories have so far been completed and operationalized since the Akufo-Addo-led government came to power.
As far as the One District, One Factory is concerned, there has been a lot of achievement in that area. In the area of job creation, one cannot just look down on it, because a lot of Ghanaians have been employed through the One District, One Factory. Note that this is a private sector initiative that government only facilitates, and so the government doesn't initiate the government only initiates the program, and the private sector now takes over as coming through direct investment or whatever they want to do through partnership. So through this arrangement, as at now, what we have, the numbers that we have, 153,782 people have benefited from the 1D, 1F through employment. We're talking about both direct and indirect employment generation in this case. The direct employment alone is 23,505, and the indirect employment is 130,277. This is very phenomenal. I guess everybody can attest to the fact that the coming into force of the 1D1F has brought some change and some difference in the industrial sector of the economy, but because it is also creating a lot of, improvement in the local economies, especially when you go to the urban and peri-urban environment, where you see that this initiative has caused the accelerated growth of the economy, and a lot of lives have changed as a result of the 1D, 1F coming into force. So clearly, nobody can underestimate that fact at all.
The former Free Zones boss also assured that each of the country's districts will benefit from the 1D, 1F campaign promised by the end of the second term of President Akufo-Addo.
The good news is that it gives people hope that you get your turn, definitely, because so far we have done almost about 130 districts and municipalities in this country, which is, for us, which is very good. It's not too bad. We are still on. Our government is still in place, and we are still in the process of working on others. Because note that there are a lot of these companies still in the pipeline. As at now, only 106 companies are operational. So out of the 278 at various stages of completion, 106 companies have fully been completed, which to us is good. So those people working in these companies, these 106 companies will put up together, will give us the numbers that we're talking about, we'll put out. So clearly, you see that we are on course. The ministry is on course, the government is on course as far as the 1D, 1F initiative is concerned.
Is the assurance that by the time your second term comes to an end, every district will get a fund?
Yes, that's what we are talking about. Because for now, as I said, 278 companies are at various stages of completion. Out of this, 106 have fully been completed. So clearly, it means that the others will also get their return. And note that it is not an initiative that the government is undertaking, so that people will see that governments are taking a project, and so government may not show seriousness in this execution. We are talking about projects that are being undertaken by private people who have earned money, or who, through the effort of participating financial institutions, the PFIs that we have, has generated money, through loans and other arrangements to undertake such projects. So they will not just sit down for the projects to go waste. They will want to make sure that they do good business for the project to be sustained, so that, they'll be able to create a lot of opportunities, not only in the area of jobs, but also in the area of trying to also help in promoting development of the country.
President Akufo-Addo says the scourge of COVID-19, widespread poverty and lack of good governance is threatening peace and stability of the sub-region. He's convinced transforming the economies of Africa offers deterrent to the threat of violent extremism. Addressing a two-day international conference on peace and security, the president, who also chairs regional bloc ECOWAS, said Ghana wants to be seen as a positive influence for the maintenance of rule of law.
Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, consolidating democracy in view of the picture I've just painted in West Africa has become very challenging. It has been complicated even further by the unacceptable extension of term limits and the intervention of the military in our governance, as has happened in Mali and Guinea, at a time when many believed and hoped that coup d'etats had become things of an unwanted past in West Africa. The restoration of democracy and hopefully stability to Mali and Guinea pose particular challenges for ECOWAS. ECOWAS has committed itself to define timetables for the conduct of credible elections in the two countries, which, in line with the ECOWAS Protocol on Democracy and Good Governance, are currently suspended from participating in its activities. Ensuring compliance with the timelines will be good indications of the authority and diplomatic prowess of ECOWAS. God willing, its efforts will succeed. Good governance should and must imperatively exclude political maneuvers to maintain power beyond constitutional requirements. Let us all be aware that beyond that, the marriage between the elected and the electorate becomes forced, the environment becomes toxic, and the mandate becomes precarious. It is for this reason that the ECOWAS Authority of Heads of State and Government, under my chairmanship at its extraordinary summit on 16 September 2021 in Accra, on the Guinean and Malian situations, authorized the ECOWAS Commission to take steps towards an urgent review of the ECOWAS Protocol on Democracy and Good Governance to take account of contemporary developments. I welcomed the decision and hope that the review will be swift and pointed. Ghana is often touted as a beacon of democracy in Africa. Since 1992, it has won plaudits for her democratic credentials, which, though still fraught with challenges, seem to have been consolidated with the conduct of 8 elections, 5 presidential transitions, 3 of which resulted in the peaceful transfer of power from one political party to another. We want to be seen as a positive influence in other African countries who continue to face challenges with democratic consolidation.
The international conference organized by the Kofi Annan International Peacekeeping Training Center aims to find solutions to emerging threats to peace in the sub-region. Commandant of the center, Major General Francis Ofori, says evidence suggests a reversal of democratic values on the continent.
Excellencies, distinguished guests, there couldn't have been a more opportune time to discuss democracy and governance in West Africa than now, considering the developments in our sub-region in particular, and Africa in general. The state of democracy globally points to a democratic backsliding characterized by a sustained and deliberate process of subversion of basic democratic tenets by some political actors and governments. This has all the potential to become a different kind of pandemic that now threatens to afflict very large and influential democracies that account for 1/4 of the world's population. If the situation is not confronted with the seriousness it deserves, Mr. President, it can embolden some political systems to intensify their practices and engage in even more brazen attempts to distort the workings of democracy. From the 1990s, in spite of the limitations inherent in Africa's political transitions A significant number of countries have made the difficult transition from full-blown military or civilian authoritarian regimes to various shades of multi-party democracies. However, these expectations may have been short-lived, as some states and people on the continent are yet to experience the real dividends of consolidated democracy and good governance. Excellencies, distinguished guests, it is worrying that despite efforts by African regional economic communities and the international community at institutionalizing democratic governance, the continent is currently experiencing a democratic reversal with increasing patterns of as well as endeavors at evading fixed term limits. The decline in democracy is manifested by a clampdown on some liberties in such instances which pose a threat to stability and security of the region.
The West African Examination Council today released results of the 2021 West African Senior School Certificate Exams, WASSCE. As you already know, almost 450,000 senior high school students took part in the exams. The results are fascinating. Nearly half of the candidates failed to meet the requirements of university admission as they failed in the 2 critical core subjects. And for you to understand the issues better, this is a breakdown of what it is. Those who passed English, 241,521, and those who passed core maths comprised of 241,387 students. Now, only 54.11 of the 446,352 candidates passed between A1 to C6 in mathematics, whilst 54.08 passed in English. Now, the data represents an 11.6% decline in the performance of students in core maths for 2021 as against data for 2020. Education analyst Kofi Asare from Africa Education Watch says the solution moving forward is to change the approach towards teaching mathematics and English language right from the basic level. He proposes government offer special training to maths tutors. He spoke to me earlier.
Maths is an issue right from basic. Our issues with maths is primarily due to the way maths is taught from the basic level. Maths is taught to be a mystical subject. We haven't yet been able to unmask or demystify the teaching of mathematics. It is still perceived by many students at the basic level as a difficult subject. And so you wouldn't expect that to quickly, do a 360 when you get to secondary level. It is actually a tradition from basic. If we are able to demystify the teaching of maths, change the approach maths teachers adapt in teaching mathematics and make it more participatory, make it more learner-friendly, I'm sure people will be more interested in doing maths and then learning maths as much as the other subjects. So that is the issue with maths. With English, that as we speak at the primary level, less than 20% of students who are completing primary 6, have proficiency levels in English at the minimum. The biggest challenge in our education sector is actually literacy and numeracy rates, especially for English. So I would say that the pass rate in WASSCE English is actually an improvement on what we normally observe during the national or piloted, standardized tests at the basic level. But we have a lot of work to do in enhancing literacy. Government has rolled out some quality interventions in the area of teaching and learning English and mathematics with the aim of trying to build foundational skills in maths and English. I'm sure if those interventions are implemented thoroughly, we should see more enthusiasm and more interest and also quality learning outcomes coming out of maths and English at the secondary level in the near future.
You heard the Kofi Asare of Africa Education Watch. Attorney General and Minister for Justice Godfred Yeboah-Dame says West African governments must tackle corruption and poverty as one of the means to ensure stability in the region. There have been at least 2 recent military takeovers in West Africa in what some have described a reversal of democracy in the sub-region. Speaking at a high-level expert meeting of Ministers of Justice in Accra for the establishment of a platform for Ministers of Justice in West Africa, Godfrey Damis says these occurrences can be averted if government strengthens state institutions.
The need to strengthen state institutions in tackling poverty, corruption, and inequality, which are often cited as reasons for such societal upheavals, cannot be overemphasized. Strengthening state institutions and civil society organizations in promoting human rights are a sine qua non in preventing conflict and ensuring lasting peace and security in West Africa. Distinguished participants, Ghana acknowledges the importance of justice delivery in its development. To this end, the government continues to put in place policies to improve justice, access to justice, promotion of the rule of law, and deepening of its democratic credentials. My ministry is undertaking reforms in several areas to make the legal sector more efficient, to improve justice delivery, and make legal services accessible to all citizens. In our quest to make justice delivery transparent, we have, with the support of the World Bank, developed an integrated information management system which aids in filing court processes and is ultimately intended at fully digitizing the operations of the Office of Attorney General and Ministry of Justice. We are also developing a scheme for enabling funding of the sector and improving the training of prosecutors. The ministry also continues to introduce relevant legislations and take other measures to combat corruption and reduce its effect on the development of the nation. It's out of this conviction that the government set up the Office of the Special Prosecutor, an organ of state independent of any form of control by the Attorney General and vested with powers to fully investigate and prosecute corruption and corruption-related offenses in Ghana.
Godfrey Damis says he's alarmed about the threats of terrorist attacks and its risk to degenerate peace and justice in the sub-region. He wants his colleagues to collaborate in making the region peaceful.
It is my expectation that the platform for the Justice Ministers of West Africa will provide synergy for the promotion of the rule of law, peace and security in the sub-region. The platform, it is hoped, will serve as a medium to aid the implementation of the Niamey Declaration aimed at deepening the rule of law, promoting peace and security, providing access to justice, amongst others in the sub-region. Terrorism and violent extremism are a growing threat across Africa with serious implications for peace and security elsewhere. In the Sahel, terrorist groups regularly attack local and international security forces, and this is not just a regional issue, but a clear and present danger to global peace and security. The Niamey Declaration recognizes that constitutionalism can only be achieved when relevant institutions of governance, justice, and law are strengthened. There is no ministry in any of the member states in West Africa better place to engage in discussion on the attainment of this end than the Ministries of Justice in West Africa.
And on Joy Clean Ghana campaign, AMA health officials lock up 2 milling shops and a public toilet at Korle for failing to meet health and sanitation standards. Preparation of akmlenkenke banku, tuwo, zafi and other food starts from the milling machine. But have you paid attention to where your groceries are milled? Michael Papania Shali takes you on a trip to Korle and he was there for Joy News.
Dirty floors and cobwebs up in the ceiling. This mill had been processing bags of maize each day to unsuspecting customers and consumers for several years. The owner, upon seeing the team from the Accra Metropolitan Assembly, abandoned the shop. But that will not deter the health officials. Team lead George Lawson of the Ablekuma South Sub-Metro of the Accra Metropolitan Assembly says they have decided to lock it up after earlier cautions to the owner fell on deaf ears.
And, by our standard, a corn mill's floor should be cemented, but you can look at the floor. It's not cemented, the floor is cracked. And you can see that they are operating in an insanitary environment, meaning that the food that will be prepared from here, the source of the food that is coming from here is already contaminated, compromising what? Food safety and hygiene standard. Therefore, we are going to close this place down. The operators of the place, as they see us, they have run away, they have abandoned the place. We are going to send them to court. We will ask them to renovate the structure, because look at the structure here. We will ask them to cobwebs the floor. We are going to ask them to renovate the floor, to cement and concrete the floor very well.
At another mill, the owner in a similar fashion had abandoned the shop. Again, the officers put the facility under lock and key.
Because they knew we were coming, they ran away and they locked the place. Look at the floor. We were here several times. Notices upon notices issued to them to improve the conditions under which they operate, but to no avail. So as a last resort, they've locked it, but we are going to lock it and then stop them from what? Operating until we are satisfied with the condition under which they operate. So this is food that people are going to use to prepare for people to consume. It's exposed on a drain.
The officials confiscated some of the items, hoping that will compel the owners to report to their office. Public Relations Officer of the AMA, Gilbert Ankra, noted with concern the state of the mills in the area. He says the AMA is concerned about food safety within its jurisdiction.
The Accra Metropolitan Assembly is very, very concerned. Issues of food safety is key on her agenda. And as part of efforts to ensure that the food that we consume within the city is healthy for people to consume, in order for us to move away from these diseases associated with some of these foods, is going to ensure that the Public Health Department of the Assembly moves in to intensify enforcement, especially within these areas where food is being prepared.
At a public toilet, the team, after inspecting the facility, decided to lock it up. Mr. Lawson says the owner had failed to do the recommended renovation when they were warned in April.
Clean Ghana was here some time ago. Okay. I cannot exactly remember the month and the date. We were here, and later he pleaded that we should give him some 2 months or so to renovate the place. But look at that. This effluent. This effluent accumulated here. And this one, when flies perch on it, go and perch on the food, they have contaminated the person's food, and the person can get what? Cholera or Salmonella typhi. That's the germ that transmits typhoid fever.
Owner of the facility, Emmanuel Lai, pleaded and said he was working on actualizing the recommendations.
I have purchased part of it again, right? I have purchased part of it again, and this is what I'm doing. It is not easy to at a go, to do everything at a go, but gradually. That is why the first time when they came, I pleaded with them. So
this did not change the mind of the health officials.
We lock the place and put things in order to our satisfaction. When you do that, even if you are able to do it now, we'll come and open it for you. That's all. But to tell you that we are opening this place, we will not open until you put things in order. Because we are tired of hearing same story, same story. We are tired of
this time is not the story. So because you have seen.
We have locked the place now, put things in order, and then we'll open it for you. Otherwise, we'll bring customers to you and take you to court.
Michael Ashali's report for Joy News.
According to the World Health Organization, over 60 million people in Africa have hepatitis B. According accounting for over 60,000 deaths annually. Beyond the high cost of treatment drugs, the drugs are less accessible and come with many side effects. Fortunately, some Ghanaian scientists are exploring cheaper sources of treatment that are less toxic and readily available. They have successfully completed a cure for hepatitis B patients with a locally made FDA-approved anti-malaria drug known as Nebima in a finding contained in the journal Scientific Africa. Joy News medical report. Dr. Netta Pashram has more in the following report.
Individuals with chronic hepatitis B infection are at risk of liver disease and a type of liver cancer known as hepatocellular carcinoma. Fortunately, hepatitis B screening, vaccination, and treatment are increasingly available in many government and private health facilities. 3-dose vaccination costs 40 Ghana cedis per dose. If infected, the medication for the 6-month treatment also costs 80 Ghana cedis per month. These costs are not covered by the National Health Insurance Program, and of course, many can't afford. Professor Mohammed Mutucello is a virologist at KNUST and member of the research team.
Currently, for hepatitis B, for chronic hepatitis B viral infection, there are an array of drugs approved for treatment and management. There are 7 of them. In this country, currently, what is largely used is tenofovir. And these are what we call directly acting antivirals. There are others as well, like the interferon base, which are also expensive. Both tenofovir and interferon-based drugs are quite expensive. For instance, the tenofovir that's largely used, the person has to buy it. Then normally they are prescribed together with hepatoprotective drugs such as hepatovites for 6 months. And when we worked out, you would be spending approximately or at least 1,000 Ghana cedis for the first 6 months, and they have side effects.
Nebima is a plant commonly found in the Kwewu Mountains. It contains a substance known as cryptolepin, which has been found to be effective against malaria and recently COVID-19. Reverend Professor Charles Ansah of the Department of Pharmacology, KNUST, has been working on cryptolepin for some time now.
But that is not the only action of cryptolepin. I call it a wonder drug. It is used in inflammation. It is an antibacterial agent. It is an anti-cancer agent. It is an anxiogenic, and a lot of other properties of this particular plant. So if you are using it for a particular disease, we also know that these are some of the properties of the plant.
Professor Mohammed Mutucello and his PhD student Seth Ejie-Dumfe initially found the success of cryptolepin against hepatitis B virus in a test tube experiment. To translate the findings into clinical care, a 49-year-old male patient with a history of chronic hepatitis B infection was given Nebima for 6 months in a case study. The viral load, blood, kidney, and liver functions were assessed. After 6 months of Nebima therapy, the hepatitis B viral load of the patient reduced by 99%.
And so we thought that the government should probably come in to assist us with a clinical trial before this can be rolled out. You know, this is an FDA-approved drug for malaria.
Happily, the scientists found no reported defects in the blood, liver, and kidney functions within the 6 months of Nebima therapy. Seth Ejie-Dumfe is lead scientist.
And we look at the markers, and they all fall within their ranges. We have normal range that being accepted. So the values where they measured at baseline, at 3 months and 6 months, they were within their normal ranges, which means that the drug had no effect on the kidneys, on the liver, and also on the bone marrow.
So there you have it, an affordable and easily accessible treatment for hepatitis B. However, do not abuse. I'm Dr. Netta Pastram reporting for Joy News.
We'll take a break on Joy News Prime. We'll be back with more.
You're welcome to Business. I'm Charles Aite. It is the month of December and the festive season has got shelves of shopping malls and markets restocked for the holiday season. But there is a challenge, the cost element, especially when government has reviewed the benchmark value and, of course, imposing some costs for importers and exporters of beverages of various kinds. The Food and Beverage Association is therefore hinting of a 25% increase in the product of goods and services in the coming Unitide. Executive Director of the association, Samuel Agri, spoke to me earlier on the marketplace.
We, the importers and traders alike, will then have to activate our second strategy as to what we're going to do to ensure that this thing don't have real effect on the consumer. Because what they have done, if your import is seen already and you are selling, you wouldn't have the impact. But then what it means is that you will then have to go back and recost your products and then accommodate the percentages that will come in your next import so that you don't make any losses. But this will have a real impact on the consuming public because... and
when are we going to be facing the impact of this? The beginning of next year or the beginning of the Yuletide?
Yeah, it has to take immediate effect.
Okay.
You see, so products and services may have to go up by 25%. And you and I know that our salaries are not there to meet that cost of increase. So therefore, if government itself does not think of the people and then you still want to go and take the money that you want to make because of that, the benchmark value must come. Then obviously we are going to face the challenges of high increases of prices.
Now, the Association of Ghana Industries has observed that even though government continues to make strides in improving the business climate for the growth of local industries, women participation in the sector continue to lag. But what remains the cause and how can this be addressed? Currently, the women leadership of the AGI are devising strategies to explore finance channels and market access to growth. Anita Wiafie-Sino is Chief Executive of OML Africa, as well as Maureen Erekwa Odwe, the co-founder and Executive Director of the Oral Business Network. The books spoke to me earlier on the marketplace.
To come together so that the opportunities and the resources that are available are distributed fairly and equally to women who are in business that are sustainable, that can create jobs.
Great. Let me bring in Maureen, because you often engage with policymakers on matters regarding women participation. What particular framework, Maureen, should exist to ensure a balanced participation of women in industry?
We are looking at a special fund that should be set aside to address the issues of women when it comes to access to finance. And that's the kind of framework we'd like to engage stakeholders on during our second anniversary celebration under the theme Women-Led Businesses, Exploring Finance Channels in Market Access for Growth.
To what extent can Ghana miss out on the continental free trade, of course, if this issue of women disparity is not tackled?
Three areas: partnership, attractiveness of women businesses, and being investor ready.
Away from that, the president of the Ghana National Chamber of Commerce and Industry, Clement Osei-Amoako, has updated the partnership with the African Diaspora Development Initiative to create jobs and support the local economy to grow would boost the country's economy. Speaking at the opening of the International Trade Expo in Cape Coast, Clement Osei-Amoako emphasized the need for the indigenous people to support their counterpart from the diaspora. We have more in this report.
The Wakanda One City of Return Expo launch assembled international businessmen and women of African descent who have come to Ghana to showcase how productive the collaboration between the African diaspora, Friends of Africa, and their brothers and sisters on the African continent can be. The Ghana National Chamber of Commerce says the Expo falls in line with the vision of the Chamber, and the Chamber of Commerce and Industry will support it fully to ensure that more jobs, industries, and education and health infrastructure are enhanced. President of the Chamber, Clement Osei-Amoako, called for support from Ghanaians for the project that would be born out of the Trade Expo and the Wakanda One City of Return project.
the chamber goes out all the time to look for investors for the country. We also partner with other bodies outside with some trade fairs, etc. And so we have an opportunity to see our own Africans coming back home to develop their own nation. Then we see it as a better platform and for us to give everything that we have. And so priority must be given to them as Ghanaians, as they are showcasing why they want to bring whatever they have experienced. And we realize that they have great brains all over the world. And it is about time that we Africans allow our friends from the diaspora to come home and develop our country together with them. There's a lot of opportunities. The government have a lot of programs. Now with the coming in of the Africa Continental Free Trade brings a lot of opportunity.
President of the African Diaspora Development Initiative, Ambassador Rekana Chinhombori Kwao, praised the resilience of the African and indicated the ADDI was ready to invest in Africa beginning from Ghana.
The rest of the world is coming to Africa. We, the owners, the inheritors of Africa's wealth, we need to be involved. So we are coming in to also participate in the economic development of Africa. You saw the support we are getting from the Chamber of Commerce, both at the national level as well as regional level. We can't ask for more than that. You saw the support from the Ministry of Trade. We can no longer go and invest in Africa individually or as small groups. We must collaborate and create massive movement where we can pull up the billions of dollars that we already have. So we don't need any funding from anybody as African diaspora. We have what it takes. When we come together, like I always tell them, $1 million diaspora with $1,000, that's $1 billion. We can do that easily. With us today, we have the president of the National Bar Association in the United States, representing 67,000 black lawyers and judges. Can you imagine how much muscle that is? That's just one organization.
A Pan-Africanist and a Kenyan law professor, Professor Pierre Lumumba, called on the African to be confident in themselves that they could rebuild Africa and make it productive and viable.
We have philosophized for too long. We have intellectualized for too long. We have moralized for too long. The time for action is now. And I have no doubt that this is going to be, under the aegis of the African Union, we have an organization which in many ways is in a suspended state of animation, in comatose. But we can inject some steroids into our activities. We can pick up Africa Agenda 2063 and give meaning to it. We can pick up the African Continental Free Trade Area and put some meaning into it. And when I look at the men and women who are here assembled, I can now say that I have no doubt. I can now say that to the extent that you have crossed oceans, to the extent that you are sacrificed, I have no doubt.
The Wakanda One City of Return Trade Expo is expected to assemble close to 1,000 African diasporans who, apart from investing in the region, would be sharing business ideas and offering some financial support to local businesses, especially women and the youth, to enable them fare well in their businesses. Reporting for Joy Business, Richard Kwejunya Akun, Cape Coast.
And that'll be it for business. I'm Charles Ite. We have sports coming up to stay.
Hello, good evening and welcome to the second part of the sports segment with me, Ulrich Wampofo. We are 2 days away from the first edition of the First Ladies Cup, where Hazakas ladies come up against Ampim Dakwan ladies at the Accra Sports Stadium, the newly introduced competition, which is organized by the Ghana League Clubs Association in honor of the First Lady of the Republic, Rebecca Akufo-Addo. Now, Galka Chairman Kujo Fiano believes the competition would help develop women's football in the country. He was speaking on the AM show earlier today.
If you mention Galka, it's the Ghana League Class Association. Hitherto used to be an all-male affair. But you will agree with me that now we have a lot of women league clubs doing very, very well.
Yeah.
And there's a need for us to push them. And we felt that we needed a personality around whom we can build this event. Not only just to play a First Ladies Cup to honor the sitting First Lady, but to come up with programs that will help develop the women's football, complement the efforts that the GFA is putting in and that of FIFA. We are a welfare body.
Okay.
So our main concern is the welfare of our members that are the club. So we sat down and we realized that no, women football has come of age, but the attention has been on the main segment, and there's a need to redouble our efforts to make sure that we give women football that support. Don't forget, the Black Queens were the first to qualify for the World Cup, the Senior World Cup, even before the Black Stars. So they also deserve the support.
Okay.
I've had the opportunity to travel with the Black Queens, and you could see the dominance of the male, apart from the head coach. No, even at that time it was Bashir Reford who was the coach. And after a game, we lost a game, and there was a need to go to the dressing room and talk to these ladies. And you know, ladies, I went into the dressing room, and that was the time they were changing. Over, and I quickly had to come out. So I realized that we needed more women around them, and we can only get them when we train them. So we decided to come up with a pragmatic program where in the next couple of years, we should have a lot of women coaches running these women clubs, have them as doctors, have them as physios, have them as dietitians. So not only a First Ladies Cup, but a program to help develop the women's football.
Now, dramatic equalizer from Zenit St. Petersburg 4 minutes into added time meant holders Chelsea failed to top their Champions League group. Substitute Magomed Ozdoev scored a stunning half volley from the edge of the box after Chelsea had come from behind to lead 3-2 with just minutes left. With Chelsea finishing second behind Juventus in their group, but currently there's something interesting happening in Barcelona's group, and that's because at the moment FC Barcelona are heading to the Europa League. They'll be finishing third behind Benfica, who would be placed second with their win over Dynamo Kiev as things stand. Barcelona heading into the game needed to win in Munich to assure themselves of second place or hope that Dynamo Kiev prevents Benfica from winning. But as things stand, Barcelona would fail to qualify to the knockout round of the Champions League for the first time in 21 years. And other results, Manchester United are being held to a 1-1 draw against Young Boys, a very much changed Man United side. And then in Group G, where all 4 teams could still top the group and qualify, but at the moment is Lille, who lead 1-0 against Wolfsburg and would top the group. Well, you can get some more sports stories on myjoyonline.com/sports. My name is Ore Kwampofo, and the news continues right after this.
And my name is Aisha Ibrahim. Many thanks for watching. I've indeed enjoyed my almost 2 hours stay with you.